With just days to go before South Koreans vote for their next president, foreign policy may not be dominating the headlines at home, but globally. There is a growing interest in how the next president will navigate the complex dynamics on the Korean Peninsula. For that, we have our correspondent Kim Jung-sil here in the studio. Welcome back, Jung-sil. Jung-sil, hasn't been a busy week for you this week.
Thanks for having me, Dami. And yes, it has been super busy with the election just around the corner. Tensions are rising fast. And at this point, every word is making headlines that are coming from the candidates, especially after that final televised debate.
And you've been closely following foreign policy platforms. Now, let's start with Democratic Party's Lee Jae-myung. What is his vision for the country on the world stage?
Yes, Lee laid out a vision that emphasizes balance, practicality, and peace through strength. He opened by referencing the aftermath of the December 3rd martial law unrest, saying the country is facing a serious diplomatic vacuum. He warned that South Korea is under growing external pressure from U.S. protectionism to increased military moves by China and Russia, and Moscow's deepening ties with Pyongyang, and said diplomacy needs to catch up.
The U.S. alliance is the foundation of our foreign policy. It must be developed practically, inclusively, and with a long-term vision. But we must not neglect ties with China and Russia. They require careful, strategic management.
In his written foreign policy platform released earlier this week, Lee signaled a shift from the North Korea policies of past progressive administrations. Rather than demanding full denuclearization up front, he called for step-by-step progress and practical engagement, likely shaped by uncertainty over U.S. policy under President Trump.
Now, let's go over People Power Party's Kim Jung-sil. How did he frame his approach to North Korea and regional security?
The People Power Party candidate drew a hard line, especially in security, in sharp contrast to Lee Jae-myung. He argued that diplomacy begins with strength and warned that the North Korean regime continues to pose an existential threat.
Kim Jong-un's dictatorship threatens our lives and property with nuclear weapons and missile provocations. I will build a transparent, principled inter-Korean relationship and strengthen our defenses by reinforcing nuclear deterrence through the U.S. alliance.
And we got this directly from the campaign. Kim is calling for a principled approach to North Korea, grounded in South Korea's constitutional claim to a single Korean state. He criticized past administrations for inconsistent responses to provocations and says it's time for a clear, rule-based policy, which isn't far from the Yoon Suk-yeol administration's approach. Kim proposed economic and mutually beneficial projects such as cultural, sports, and humanitarian exchanges to create shared values, and said he's open to meeting with the North Korean leader.
Jung-sil, last but not least, what did we hear from Reform Party's Lee Jae-myung? He hasn't been exactly a foreign policy heavyweight until now.
Well, this was one of the first times that he clearly outlined his foreign policies, and he leaned into his international background and non-ideological approach.
The president of South Korea must have international experience and a practical mindset. If elected, I will merge the unification and foreign ministries and appoint a deputy prime minister for national security to oversee foreign affairs, unification, and defense policies.
He promised to scrap the current structure entirely and recenter South Korea as a strategic architect and not just dependent on the alliance. 3 candidates, 3 foreign policy visions, and with the clock ticking, the next president will set the course for South Korea's role in the global stage.
Fascinating indeed and high stakes. Jung-sil, thank you so much for coming in today.
My pleasure, Dami.